Hi, I told you I'd be back. Well, today I want to talk about post, um, my post integration back into American society after I studied abroad. So it's coincidentally more so, coincidentally more so, it's a year tomorrow since I left for abroad. I had a different schedule. I left in October and I came back in the middle of January. And so, yeah, it's funny that I left tomorrow and I'm doing this now. I left after the Jewish holidays last year. It was definitely difficult for me when I came back from being abroad. First off, because I didn't really have that transition period. I had about 5 days. I came back on a Thursday and I was back to school by Monday. Less than 5 days, excuse me. And I was back into classes by Tuesday. So right in there. So I didn't really have that grace period where I was able to transition. So it was like a whole whirlwind thrown at me. And being in Israel, there are many things that are similar to the American culture, but there's many things that are very different. I had to get acclimated into getting into our style of schooling, more so into our classes as well. It was just different. It was also different. It was very difficult for me to be amongst English speaking people, which was funny because once I got into the airport, I remember I landed in JFK or Newark, something like that. I landed in JFK or Newark, and I remember like people weren't saying sliha for excuse me, which is excuse me in Hebrew. Um, and I was like, what? I was like, I couldn't get my head around it, and I was just like, people are speaking English. I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone or something. So it was definitely difficult for me. And then being back in classes by Monday, I was like, why are so many people speaking English? Like, why are people speaking Hebrew? Why aren't people speaking Arabic? And as you all know, I study Arabic in college. So it was just like a whirlwind for me. And I was used to my roommate speaking Arabic in my dorm. And now we were speaking English. Like, English was like far beyond. Like, that's what I felt like. It was far beyond what I was used to, and that was definitely difficult for me. It was hard for me to get back into the routine of things. More so because once you're abroad, you're doing things on your own. You don't have anybody to answer to, and it's not like you answer to your professors or you have things to do. You're kind of just in your own world while you're abroad, and you kind of like take a step aside from being like in your life and what you're involved with here, and you just do your own thing. And it's just like that was difficult for me because it was like a 360 that I had to do in a few days, and it was like, okay, everything's getting thrown at you and here are all your clubs. But I think that there are definitely a few things that I can take from being abroad. And like I said, like this is even difficult for me to do. Like to put it into words is hard enough. To talk about it, it's difficult. Like you don't understand abroad until you actually experience it. It's just an incredible feeling of just being embraced in a culture. And not only did I get one culture, I was immersed into two cultures. So I got that Israeli vibe, but I also had that Arabic culture as well. And I couldn't be more grateful for that. And once I came back to the US, I was really enlightened by not understanding, because I definitely can't understand it, and nor do I live it on a daily basis. But I do have more of an understanding and awareness for things that go on amongst the Israelis and Palestinians, the relations that there are there, and I have more insight into different ideas that I didn't know about until I lived there. And I don't think unless you live there, you don't get the entire picture. And I was only there for 3 to 4 months, so I still didn't get the entire picture. And one thing that I definitely would say that I can take away from that entire experience is that my opinion not that it doesn't mean anything, but my opinion on the conflict itself, it does not project anything whatsoever because I don't live it on a daily basis. Okay? Don't live it on a daily basis, and you have to understand both sides. And I think this is a great component of global studies because you have to understand both perspectives, both the Israelis and the Palestinians, and I think that is absolutely crucial to understanding any components of the Arab-Israeli conflict. You have to understand both sides, and you have to get different perspectives, and I was fortunate to get that while I was there. And I was able to see the interconnectedness of the Middle East and understand why I understand why functions operate the way they do in the Middle East. And it was interesting to see firsthand about an area that's so discussed in the media and actually be able to live it. I remember sitting at a bunker on the border of Israel, facing Lebanon and Syria. Like, it was incredible. I was in the Golan Heights facing Syria. And who experiences that? So there are definitely many things I could take away. As I've mentioned, like, transition was hard. Took a while. I was really thrown into things while I was here, and it was like, okay, back to club life, back to organizations, back to dance, back to exercising, back to this, back to that. It was crazy. But you just do it. You have to do it. And I always say, like, even weeks after, I was like, oh, I was on the run. Like, my life was so easy. But, like, it was just more so that I was liberated while I was abroad. I was liberated of any of my thoughts, and it was just a time for me to really reflect on myself. Abroad did wonders for me and my well-being, because it takes you out of the society that we have here, puts you in another place, and you're just there to roam, explore. And that's what I truly encourage anybody to go. What they do when they go abroad, you just explore. But like I said, it's so difficult to put my experiences into words, to even discuss it with you, which is absolutely amazing. When you say a picture is worth 1,000 words, it's so hard for me to get my sentiments out, other than like feelings of happiness and joy and like wonder. Abroad cultivates your knowledge because you are able to see things firsthand from a different perspective. And I think that while going abroad, I learned how to really integrate myself into a different society and not act like I've traveled my entire life, and I'm fortunate for that. But one thing that I really took away from while I was abroad was really how to stop being the tourist. How to stop being the tourist. How do you make it known that you are not, like, you don't want to be the tourist. You want to integrate yourself so well that people think that you're a part of the culture. That's amazing to do that. That's amazing. And that improves your cultural competency at the end of the day. And I think that's another thing that brought it for me. It definitely improved my cultural competency and being aware of how to adapt to different situations. So I hope you enjoy that. I know that there were many thoughts thrown out there, but I do really want to incorporate this video, this YouTube channel, a little bit more into my website. So check out my blog below, and I also have writing samples that I provided to you from various classes while I was abroad. So check those out as well.